Most remote teams fail for one of two reasons. Either the leader completely disappears or they hover. One leaves the team completely confused and the other leaves them suffocated. Neither of them works, and neither builds performance. So what does? Diplomacy. That's what does. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Everyday Diplomat, where we talk about how real leaders build trust, lead with clarity, and solve problems without relying on their rank or authority. I'm Michael Forras, a retired Marine Sergeant Major, former U.S. diplomat, and someone who spent the better part of 20 years leading high-performing teams through crisis, conflict, and constant change. I've stepped into commands where morale was all but in the gutter, where trust was completely gone, and where creativity had completely flatlined, and I didn't have time to win people over. I had to lead in a way that brought people back to the table and fast. Not by barking louder and not by handing out motivational posters, but by building an environment where ideas could once again breathe. That's what we do here. This channel isn't about theory. It's about how to lead when the pressure's real, the culture's strained, and you can't afford to get it wrong. So if you're ready to stop managing from a distance and start leading with intention, you're in the right place. A lot of leaders made the same mistakes when remote work exploded. They assumed, hey, these are professionals, they're going to figure it out. So they pulled back. Fewer check-ins, less feedback, no presence, just pings and project boards. And when things started to slide, they were surprised. Communication slowed, friction started to build, morale completely dipped. But here's what most don't realize. Remote teams don't collapse all at once. They begin to erode slowly, quietly, and then very suddenly. And the biggest trap, believing that remote work runs on autopilot. In a physical office, leadership happens in the margins. You read the energy in the room, you sense the tensions between departments, you hear a sigh after a meeting, and then you go and follow up. That doesn't exist in remote environments unless you design for it. Remote teams don't give you less visibility by default. They require intentional visibility. You can't lead from instinct. You have to lead from systems, from structure and rhythm. If your team doesn't know where you're going, how you're getting there, and then what success ultimately looks like, they're not going to guess their way into high performance. That's not because they're not good enough. It's because the system isn't good enough to support them. Yael Zophi, in A Manager's Guide to Virtual Teams, said this: virtual teams don't suffer because they lack communication tools. They suffer because they lack leadership presence. You don't fix that with more Zoom calls. You fix it by being strategic about what leadership actually looks like when proximity disappears. And here's the key. Remote leadership isn't reactive. It's completely deliberate. It's rhythmic. It's visible, even when you're not. You can't be everywhere, but your influence sure can be. And if you're ready to lead with that type of clarity and structure, go ahead and check out my Foundations course. It's built for new and emerging leaders who are looking to navigate exactly what we've been talking about right here. Remote teams, shifting dynamics, and the need for intentional influence. And to help celebrate that course's launch, we're offering $100 off right now for a limited time. The coupon code is appearing on the screen right here, Foundations 100. And if you missed it, don't worry, it's in the video description too. Don't guess your way through leadership. Go ahead and build a system that actually works. Clarity is the new currency in remote and hybrid environments. Ambiguity doesn't just slow teams down, it completely sinks them. And not all at once, it happens gradually. It's one missed expectation, one unasked question, one vague task that gets missed and then mishandled. The danger is that most leaders don't notice that it's happening until the performance is off and trust is already fractured. Remote teams, they don't give you the benefit of that hallway chat or the, hey, just checking in on you, that glance from across the room, which means that you have to lead with surgical clarity. And I'm not talking about being louder or longer. I'm talking about getting precise. Every task should come with an answer to these questions. What exactly needs to be done? Who owns it? What does done actually look like? Like the format, the quality, what's the actual deadline? And then when and how will it be reviewed or handed off? That last one is absolutely critical. Too many virtual tasks, they float in the inbox limbo because nobody set the review rhythm. And remember, if it's not written down, it's probably going to be misunderstood. Post-meeting recaps, short, simple summaries of who's actually doing what and by when, they're not just helpful, they're a non-negotiable leadership tool. In fact, I'd argue that written clarity is more important than verbal fluency in remote settings. Now, let me make this real. When I was on embassy duty in Moscow, Russia, our teams didn't have time to meet consistently. We were spread thin. Each person had a role, but when the assignments came in, we did not fumble the handoff. Each of us had delivered our portion, and when reassembled, the pieces, they fit. In fact, they fit more perfectly together than if we had each individually completed the project in its entirety on our own. That did not happen by accident. It happened because we had shared standards, shared purpose, and shared expectations. And it created a culture of mutual accountability where letting down the team was not an option. If you want your remote team to thrive, start here. Lead every single task like you're building in the dark, because you are. Make clarity your habit, not your correction. One of the most common mistakes that I see remote leaders make is this. They either disappear or they hover, and both happen for the same reason. It's insecurity around accountability. In the office, you could feel the pulse of progress. You could see the work actually happening. You could course correct in real time. But in remote settings, that visibility doesn't happen naturally, which means that if you haven't built it in a way to see the work, you're either guessing or you're panicking. That's when leaders start micromanaging. Not because they're control freaks, but because the system doesn't show them what they need to actually know. Here's what I tell leaders all the time. You don't need to control the person, but you do need to control the system. Build visibility into the way that the team operates, and you're going to see that trust gets easier. Here are 3 ways that you can get started. Shared dashboards. Not to track keystrokes or hours, but to give everybody a shared view of the deliverables, the ownership, and the overall progress. Weekly recap rituals. I've seen teams that use a simple Friday format. What I moved forward this week, what blocked, what's next. It creates a rhythm without surveillance. Public commitments. Go ahead and use your Slack or Teams channel to call out who's leading what. Visibility creates that light pressure, and that light pressure is going to create momentum. The goal here isn't to enforce, it's to expose. When everybody sees the same picture, you're going to notice that trust builds naturally. And this is exactly what I designed the Everyday Diplomat 90-day planner to do. It helps leaders clarify expectations, to track progress, and then lead with intention, not reactivity. And if you haven't grabbed a copy of the Everyday Diplomat's book yet, it pairs perfectly. It's loaded with the tools just like this and real stories from the field that show you how to use them. You can grab both at the links provided in the description below. Remote teams don't come together on their own naturally. Not really. They need more than just shared tasks and digital tools. They need shared roots. When I served at the United States Embassy in Moscow, Russia, our team didn't always work side by side. We were operating in different areas on different shifts, managing sensitive assignments individually, responsibly, but collectively accountable. We'd each get our tasks, execute our portion, and then bring it all together on time. And when we did it, it fit. And like we said before, it fit together more perfectly than if any one of us had done it all alone by ourselves. Not because we micromanaged each other, not because of some high-tech tracking tool. It worked simply because we were grounded in the same standards, the same purpose, and the same overall pride of the work that we did. We were all volunteers for the program. We had passed a very tough selection process, physical, mental, academic. We had something to prove and something to protect. But more than all that, we had a ritual that kept us all aligned. Despite working independently, throughout the week, every week we came together, same time, same place, for breakfast. That one routine, it served as our weekly reset button. No uniforms, no hierarchy, just people. We'd talk shop, sure, but we'd also talk about life. That breakfast reconnected us. It gave us a moment to re-baseline, to reestablish that mutual respect, and then to rekindle the culture that made performance possible. That's what Yael Zofi is getting at when she wrote that even virtual teams need physical touchpoints to create loyalty and accountability. If you're leading a remote or hybrid team, don't ever overlook that. In fact, Penn State's MBA program takes this so seriously that for their online MBA program, they require that your first course is performed on campus, is to build those relationships so that you know the people that are in your cohort as you're going through the program. You may not have a weekly breakfast, but you need to have something, a shared beginning, some kind of a grounding ritual, a story that ties the team to its purpose. Culture will never grow in silence, but it does grow in connection. And if you don't give your team the moment to come together, they're going to drift apart, even if the work gets done. Here's a hard truth about leadership that all too many people forget when they begin to go remote. Culture still happens. It doesn't go on pause because you're working from home. It doesn't stop forming just because the office is empty. Culture is happening right now in your team, with or without you. And if you're not actively shaping it, you're letting it shape itself. In remote environments, culture doesn't build through proximity. It builds through ritual, repetition, and your reinforcement. That means that you actually have to create moments that remind people why we're here and what we care about, and more importantly, how we win together. That could be something like a weekly wins roundup, a monthly recognition post, or even a short voice memo when somebody crushes a milestone. Or how about a reoccurring Slack question like, hey, what's one thing that made you proud this week? These might seem incredibly small, but whatever culture you establish, it isn't built in the big gestures. It's built in consistent signals. And here's the key. Culture thrives in visibility. If you want trust and cohesion, you have to put it on display. Not performatively, but authentically. Teams do not drift because of distance. They drift because no one's minding the culture. And if you're watching this thinking, this is the type of leadership that I want to practice more intentionally, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Give this video a like and stay in the loop. Every week, we release new videos, practical leadership tools designed for real-world challenges, just like the one you're navigating right now. And while you're at it, go ahead and grab my free guide, 10 Things to Never Say as a Leader. It's an incredibly quick read that will help you avoid the landmines that kill trust before you even realize that it's gone. You're going to find the link right here in the description below. If you're leading a remote or hybrid team across time zones, you're not just managing people, you're managing context. And context is absolutely everything, because what feels like momentum to you might feel like a midnight fire drill to somebody else. And if your team is waking up to 15 unread messages, 2 passive-aggressive comments, and a task that was due by noon local time, that's not productivity. That's a leadership debt. Remote leaders who succeed at scale do one thing better than everybody else. They design for time. They know the difference between what's urgent and what's important. They communicate clearly across hours and oceans, and they lead without forcing their rhythm onto everybody else. This is what I call asynchronous diplomacy. It's about creating influence and clarity even when you're not in the room, and it starts with a shift in your mindset. Don't chase real time. Design for the right time, because great remote teams, they're not built on instant replies. They're built on shared systems, mutual trust, and communication that respects people's lives. Here's how you lead that way in practice. Go ahead and use async tools wisely. Loom, Notion, Slack, project boards. Use them to give context without demanding presence. Go ahead and label urgency. Say things like response by end of day Tuesday or for your awareness only. Teach your team to do the same. Batch your communications. Don't pepper your team with messages all day long. Send one clear update with everything that they need to act. And then respect their off hours time. Just because you're working doesn't mean that they should be as well. And then replace status meetings with video updates. Let your people consume information when they're fresh and not fatigued. These aren't soft ideas, they're structure. They allow your team to actually breathe, to think, and produce at their peak without constantly reacting to your needs. And here's the payoff. When you build a culture that respects time, people are going to give you more of it. More effort, more energy, more trust, because you've proven that you don't lead from ego or urgency. You lead with clarity, rhythm, and respect. And that's where long-term performance actually comes from. Not from pinging people into exhaustion, but from building systems that make clarity outlive the conversation. It's not just about managing work, it's about mastering presence even when you're not present. Remote and hybrid work are not going anywhere soon, and neither are the leadership challenges that they expose, but that's not something to fear. It's an opportunity if you choose to lead with intent. Because the truth is that remote leadership, it doesn't require less of you, it actually requires more. More clarity, more consistency, more courage to design systems and not just to react to problems. When you lead in a remote environment, everything about your leadership becomes visible. Not your title, not your resume, but your habits. Do you create alignment? Do you define success? Do you shape the culture that you say you believe in? The leaders who answer yes to all of those questions day after day are the ones whose teams are actually going to thrive. Not because they're always available, but because they lead in a way that doesn't require them to be. So whether you're leading across a cubicle, a continent, or a calendar, remember this: influence travels further than proximity. Go ahead, build systems that actually hold the standard. Build rituals that reinforce the mission. And build trust that doesn't need to be micromanaged. And most importantly, keep showing up on purpose. That's what real leaders do. I'll see you in the next episode.